Hello, Jen, and welcome back to the program. It's been quite a long time since we last spoke. You're in Brisbane, Australia, up near, and I'm in Manchester, England. So it's good to be back with you.
Namaste, David. It's great to be back.
We covered a lot of your life in the last interview, and today we're going to maybe start with what you've been doing since then, because from what you said, there's been quite a lot happened. So, what's been happening to you in the last 6 months since we spoke?
Oh gosh, there has been, on a personal level, I've had a tremendous amount of growth. It's almost like I've been in hibernation, and the caterpillar's been in the cocoon, just resting, and I just think she my caterpillar has just been in a little space of it's not denial's not the word. I haven't been in denial. I've been in a place of gathering information about who I am and what am I going to do with it. Now, in January, Spirit gave me a message and said, right, we want you to go back to Melbourne, and we would like you to go back and do your Heartlight gatherings. Now, Heartlight gatherings are what I do when I bring a group of people together, and because healing the heart is my passion. It has always been my passion. And because I have spoken on, with you, and I've spoken with Brother Sean about this before, how, we're wounded soldiers. We're walking wounded soldiers. And I try in these Heartlight gatherings to really touch that wounded inner child within, and to work through that process in order to assist those who come along to heal, and not just to heal, for the minute or for the day, but to totally heal. But, it's just amazing, David, how so many of us choose to stay the wounded child because that's where we're comfortable.
Yes.
It suits us to be the victim, and it suits us to live in the past. And it suits us because sometimes if we say to someone, oh, poor me, this is what happened to me, that person will say to you, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. And how does that make us feel? It makes us feel that someone cares about us, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. There's there's at the time justification for what we want, but I can relate to what you're saying. I think we all have wounds in childhood, and they're just there, and it's so good when you can do something in a spiritual way that brings you out of that and gives you greater understanding. Yes, you need to understand what's gone on, but also you need to know how to let that go and get on with your life, rather than be dominated by things of the past which keeps coming up without being resolved. So it's
absolutely. And it's only today, on this very, very day, and I'm very excited because it's like the butterflies finally come out of the cocoon.
Oh, good.
It's like, I was writing in my new book today, and I was saying how up until now I imagined that my wall has been just full of tiny pictures. And so I've had this group of tiny pictures up on my wall, and if I look across a little bit further, there's a hook there, but there's a picture missing on that hook. And I can see that the picture that's been missing is actually the bigger picture. So I've been concentrating on all the little tiny pictures, but I haven't visually been able to see the bigger picture. But today I had a revelation, and the revelation was really, it was like everything fell into place for me. And it was like, I thought that my purpose, because this is a question I ask those who, when I speak in public or when I do my gatherings or whether I do a workshop, do you know your purpose? And I know through life we have different purposes.
Yeah.
And when you're working, in a position, your purpose is, yes, I want to be the best employer or the best employee in this business. Or whether you're a mother or a father, oh, well, I want to be the best mother or the best father that I could possibly be. And so your purposes in life are all, you have different purposes that incorporate what your life is. But today, all along, I thought that I was born, my purpose was to teach enlightened teachings.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if we talk about the Gospels and whatever, and you have the these preachers who come out and they teach the teachings of Jesus or of God or of whatever, Buddha or whatever it is. But I realised that is not my way. I haven't been born to teach enlightenment. I have been born to assist in the enlightenment of the heart.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yes. It's something
And so
that there's a lot of teachers around, but there's each teacher has their own unique way of communicating. You've been blessed with the gifts that you do have, with the purpose of
heart healing.
Realizing their potential and actually,
Well, we can't realise our potential, and I came to this conclusion today, unless we let go of the past, let go of the wounded child, because it's the past that keeps us stuck in the darkness, if I want to put it that way, in the emotions of anger and, everything else that we feel. It's the past that doesn't allow us to live in the now if we stay in that past. And it was very, very interesting. I was asked today, why is it that I write my books in diary form?
Yeah.
Because I write each day as something comes to me, I go in and I put the date and what I received on that day. And I sat with that just for a moment, and my answer was really simple. My answer was, and this is what I have been concentrating on deeply, deeply for the last 6 months since we last spoke, on living in the now, living in the moment.
Sure, because that's all we have, isn't it? That's all we ever have. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all we have, but we don't live that way. We live in the past.
Yeah.
Because we like to remain the wounded child.
Yeah.
And so the wounded child, the only place that person lives is in the past.
Yeah.
So if you're depressed about something, for instance, you're only depressed about something that's come through from the past.
Yeah, it's your thoughts. Our minds play tricks on us, as you know, and the secret is being wise to that, and maybe, thinking about a thought just comes to mind about that old saying, remember the past, dream about tomorrow, but live today, and that sums it all up very concisely about the best way of living. We can't do anything else. There's nothing productive other than in this moment that we're experiencing. So it's something that we do.
I think how many people, we know these sayings, but how many people actually live by them?
Yeah, how many walk the talk? Or to what extent do we walk our talk? Yeah.
Well, it takes a lot. I've had to, I've been every afternoon going into deep meditation, using the crystal bowls. I have consciously made a decision that I no longer want to be the wounded child, that I wish to fill my heart with so much light and to empty it from all the darkness and all the shadows and everything that's been held within. I have worked so hard in the last 6 months to actually empty that chalice totally, or as much as I can. And every now and again, of course, something will be presented. And in that presentation, it's really, I've learnt to acknowledge it right there and then. It's like, okay, I'm being presented with something here. What am I going to do with this? Yeah. Not mull over it and let's sit on it for, a week or 2 weeks or whatever. It's like, okay, this is bringing up something in me. What is it that it's bringing up? And let's deal with it now.
That's right. Doing things to help to do that. You just mentioned crystal bowls, and that rings a bell with me. Sound is very, very special to me about the way you bring yourself back to centre. There's so many ways of bringing yourself back to centre, but sound is one of them. And so I can definitely relate to the power of sound, the power of, say, crystal bowls, which get to places that nothing else does. So that's
it's the music of the angels.
Yeah.
The vibration of those crystal bowls and harmonics.
Yeah.
Doing harmonics yourself, and even if you sit and do your ohms and work with your ohm at your base chakra level, if you do that properly, it vibrates through your whole being.
Yeah.
But I find that the crystal bowls, when they're not just one, and you've got, say, the whole spectrum of the chakras, and they're all going, my crown chakra nearly blows off. It blows right open.
I know the
and
feeling.
I had an experience about 2 years ago where each night in my dream state, I was taken back to the excuse me, I've had a cold, to the 6 days. I know we talk about the 7 days of creation, but I was taken back to the first 6 days of creation. And I was taken back to the Merkaba, the flower of life, the moment of sound. And I was told that in that dream that everything is vibrating, has been put together, energy from the vibration of sound.
Yeah.
And so I realized, as by having these dreams and being connected to, I guess, everything is a vortex, I suppose. I've learnt to appreciate, I always love music, but I find I cannot tolerate, that head-banging music, it's my brain, my whole being just literally, it almost spews, if I can use that word, against the whole process of that particular beat of music. I'll share something with you.
Okay.
I had a little experiment that I used around music. Oh gosh, this is going back now about 15 years ago. And I had roses growing outside my children's bedrooms. And my son had his style of music and my daughter had her style of music. The roses did not grow or bloom flowers out the side of my son's music.
Wow.
Yet they did on the side of my daughter's music. Yeah. And they were side by side in a row. And I was thinking, what's going on with these roses? This side are not growing and blooming, and this side are doing, really beautifully and full of, blooms. And all of a sudden something in me said, it's to do with the music that's coming out from their bedrooms.
Yeah.
And I realised then the power of beautiful music that resonates with our soul compared to music that resonates with the alpha beats of the brain.
Sure.
And I often think to myself, when I'll stop you a minute, but when, kids go to these discos and you've got this boom, 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 I often wonder if that actually alters, I'm sure it does, the energy or the beats of the brain to an extent where, we hear of all this violence and the drug taking.
It brings
and
up the dark side very much, doesn't it?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it must do something to the crown chakra or whatever, and it actually brings up, all these, as you say, the dark side.
Oh, yeah.
The dark side.
That's right.
Something interesting happened through the week. I received a really powerful message about children, babies. And the message was that it takes the first 7 years for the soul of that baby to fully integrate into that child.
Yeah.
Right? It's the first 7 years.
Yeah.
In that first 7 years, that child is extremely open, as we know. I mean, the new kids that are coming through now are just incredible. I mean, I've got them in my own grand angels. Now, if that child has had a shock of any kind, either through the birth process, or it can be as simple as the parents arguing all the time, or anything that's caused that child to become unbalanced, the soul will then retreat back, and then it has to start the process all over again. And this got me thinking about ADHD and autism and, all these things that are coming through at the moment, and these kids, these teenagers that are so angry. Not all, but there are a lot.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if all of this sort of what's going on now, this unrest with our teenagers and a lot of our children, whether it goes back to that time within that first 7 years.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. It's things done then, they stay with you, and sometimes it can be a lifetime's work to. It doesn't have to be, but I think the main thing is we make progress. We get in touch with that, and we've just mentioned sound, the bowls, and the time I spent in Australia, my contact with Aboriginal people. I mean, the didgeridoo to me, oh wow, that really gets in there. And
what the didge does, this is fascinating when you work with music, because I when I play my music, I will start off with my crystal bowls, but as I'm coming back out of that meditation, because we can.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about when we listened to didgeridoo, and when you come out of that, and it's the process that you go through.
Absolutely, and it's very important that when we're, doing meditations and we're playing this celestial music, to bring ourselves back, ground ourselves with drumming or with the didgeridoo or anything, that's similar to that. So, it's really, music plays an important part in our whole, and it opens up the heart chakra.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different levels. With me, it's a very extremely deep level. I sometimes go to these crystal bowl workshops, and we lie on the ground if we want to, or someone comes around with a bowl or a gong, and wow, I just can't put it into words what that does. So yeah, I can really identify with what you're saying.
It can also, when you play music of that celestial level, it can also repair all the DNA strands within your body that have been disconnected. Yeah. And so, I do not believe, and I'm going out on a limb here, I do not believe that any single person, they have these workshops where they say, oh, I can, activate your DNA or change your DNA or whatever. I do not believe that's the case. I have to say it. But I do believe that when we allow ourselves and open ourselves up to that beautiful, beautiful sound, and of course sound is colour, it starts to bring in all the senses. So we've got the 7 rays of the 7 suns, of the 7 moons, and, it goes beyond anything that we expect from that. And I think that's why when we're in that space of the bowls and we open ourselves up to that vibration, we can feel, and you'll agree with me, our whole body vibrates at that frequency.
Yeah, it
doesn't
just
it?
takes you almost out of your physical body and into the higher self, which is just something that, you know, it's good to do as much as possible, because believe our natural state is a flow of energy around us, but then things happen and it gets blocked, and we do things, various things, sound. I mean, I go to the gym, that helps me a lot. It gets the energy flowing again. I feel great at the end of the session than I did, you know, better than I did when I came in. But certainly sound is a very, very special for me.
I think it's important. It's important, especially as we're trying to become enlightened.
Yeah.
So to lighten, I believe, and also, David, I did a workshop here recently, and I was talking about what we bring into our energy field that comes from other people.
Yes.
And we don't realise how much, as an empath, people who feel, empath, you're an empath, I'm an empath, so we are people who take on feelings.
Yeah.
And so as much as, you know, I can try and close myself down and say, right, when I go into a supermarket or into the nursing home where my mother-in-law is, or such places, I'll protect myself and close myself down. I just can't. I just don't seem to be able to. And, you know, it's amazing how it can affect your whole psyche. And fortunately for me, I know by my body will blow up. I'll almost look like I'm 9 months pregnant because I take it in through the solar plexus, number one. Number two, I can tell by my personality. And I've learnt with my husband, who's an empath as well, through Chris, that if I've noted, for instance, we went on a holiday when we first met, and on that holiday, Chris's personality totally changed. And I thought, oh, goodness gracious, you know, I don't know if I want to be with this man. He's not what I thought he was. And it wasn't till that night I went to bed and I received very clear guidance from my guides. Chris needs to do a clearing. He's got an energy attachment.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, Chris, you need to do a clearing. This is how you do it. So I went through the process with him, and he went straight back to his normal personality. And I find, as a counsellor, I have people come. I work here from my home, and you can imagine what type of people come and what type of problems they have. And so I have had to learn that as soon as they go, I have to actually cleanse my whole home. Because this is an example. We had a fellow came to put an air conditioner in our bedroom. I don't think I spoke to you about this, have I? No. And anyway, that night I went to bed, and Bruce, my man that died, who we have spoken about, when he wants to warn me about something, he sets off the fire alarms. So I just got into bed, we'd just gone to bed, the next minute, the fire alarm goes off. Because I know now, I don't have to check to see if it's the batteries. Oh, so Bruce is trying to tell me something. That's interesting. Okay, I'll go with it. The next minute, our bedroom is upstairs, and I could hear boom, 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 boom. Chris was asleep, coming up the staircase. I thought, oh my gosh, has someone got into the house? Are we being robbed? Like, my heart was beating. I thought, well, I get a stick. What am I going to do? Anyway, I thought, no, it's okay. Just relax. You'll be right. Next minute, boom, 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 beside my bed. I thought to myself, oh, somebody's here. But thankfully, I knew it wasn't somebody in the physical. I knew it was someone from the spiritual, a ghost, a spirit. So before I knew it, the sheet was folded back off the bed. Like, it was lifted up and folded back. my heart was still thumping. I was still, I was thinking,
Sure.
oh my gosh, I should be used to it by now because it's happened so often. But, every time it does happen, I have to say I still get, a bit spooked by it, especially when it's dark. So all of a sudden I just said, okay, I know that you're here. I know that you're here for a reason. If you're lost, I send you through to the light, right? And I did my little ritual. Boom, gone. The next day, the air conditioner man came back to see how everything was going, and he sat down. I said, whatever you do, don't go upstairs. Do not go in our bedroom. I do not want to go through another night like I went through last night. And I had my spray, my protection spray. I said, come here, and I'm spraying him with my spray, and he's thinking I was, a bit off the tree. And I said, no, you brought someone with you yesterday, and I had to deal with it last night, and I don't want to have to deal with it again tonight. He said, what do you mean? And I explained to him I said, where were you before you came to us? And he said, I was visiting a lady, and she was telling me the story. And I said, her son was killed, wasn't he? And he said, how did you know that? And I said, because you brought him with you when you came straight from her place to our place. Yeah. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, he's used you as a host body in order to come to me, understanding that I would know what to do.
Yeah.
He said, that is incredible. And then he went on to tell me about how he sleepwalks, and he's been sleepwalking since he was 3. And I said to him, what happened to you when you were 3? Because your subconscious and your conscious have got something, deep within yourself, and there's something you need to do to heal it. And he said, I was involved in a car accident, and he said, the person that I was with in the car accident was killed. And so he had taken on that essence, I guess, as an empath in his aura, and that had disturbed him so much that every night since then he's been sleepwalking. So I gave him an exercise to tap into that subconscious and to release, say that it's okay to release that experience that he had at 3 years old. And I said, ring me and let me know how you go. And he has not sleepwalked since.
Really? Wow, that's
No, that was the last of his sleepwalking.
Yeah.
So getting back to what we can bring into our energy fields, imagine, as empaths, what we are bringing into our energy field that's not even ours. Yeah. So at the last time I spoke at a gathering, I spoke about this because they were all readers, healers, people in the this profession. And I said, do you ever do clearings on yourself or on your, the space where you're working or in your homes after you've been working with clients? No, they hadn't. They didn't even know that was something that they should be doing.
Yeah, it's unaware. I mean, I have a friend who... she's very extremely sensitive in a spiritual way, and she has some problems with people's energy if she doesn't do this protection. I must confess I don't understand it, but I'm open to more understanding, and I think it's having spending time with that friend that's brought me into more awareness of what you're talking about, that you can walk into something if you're really tuned in and you operate at a high spiritual level. There's a lot of stuff there that most people wouldn't be aware of. So I understand why she has to go through this this protection situation.
Oh, absolutely. Especially also if you're coming from a place of the wounded child.
Yeah.
Because your energy field is already in a space of not pure light.
Mm.
Because your energy field is still carrying anger, hurt, all those things that are attached to the wounded child, to the victim.
Yeah.
And so this is what I'm trying to teach through the Heartlight gatherings. And this is in the last 6 months what I've been working towards, and that is the clearing away of the debris of the heart, all the debris we no longer need, starting to come into the moment, into the now. So right this moment, my only thoughts, because your thoughts are what control you, are only filled with you and I.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
Right at this moment. I have no thoughts of anything external to you and I.
Yeah.
This lovely moment that we're sharing.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
It is. It's,
so, yeah.
Living in the now, as we said, it's, you know, it's all there is and all there ever was. But we all stray from that path, and the sooner, you know, we do things like sound or other things that bring us back to that centre.
Well, I think it's practice. Yeah. We've got to make a conscious decision, which is what I've done in the last 6 months. I made a conscious decision that I no longer wanted to be the victim, and Spirit have supported me through the whole process, because every night for 2 weeks in my dream state, I was taken to an instance that's happened in this life to enable me to clear it.
Yeah.
So I was presented with different people that I needed to clear my karmic debts with. And I was able to do it, if not in the physical, I was able to do it in my dream state. And I was well aware of, in that state, of what I was doing. And I would wake up in the morning and say, another one over and done with, thank you. Okay, next one. Because once I made that conscious decision that I no longer wanted to be a victim, I didn't even want to be a survivor. I just want, my wish is to be a heart, light, loving, fulfilled person. Yeah. That whoever I come in contact with in one way or another, I'm coming in contact with them from a totally healed and whole heart, not from the wounded child. I now am growing up, I guess. I'm becoming the adult that this 61-year-old should be. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I do not want to leave this world at whatever age I'm going to leave it, still as a wounded child. I would like to be able to say that when my time comes to leave this world, that I have finally got it and have finally found the love, what love is.
That's right, and you spent a lot of time in the process of helping others to achieve that same state, and that's a wonderful thing to do with your life, I think. Wonderful legacy when we do move on. It's what we leave behind is very important, and someone like yourself who deals in the healing situation and getting through to people at a deep level, because a lot of my stuff, I have a very technical job. It's a lot of head stuff and sound and the other spiritual things. I know I need to get away from that, and one of the highlights of my week is doing a yoga class. A friend as a great yoga teacher, and I feel so good after that. When I walk in, I'm caught up with the stuff of the day in here, but after, I'm absolutely wonderful. It's just look forward to that every week. I've been doing it for a few years, but it has a really special effect on me every time. The relief and back to centre, and that's why there are several ways of doing this, and yoga is one of them. Yeah. Sound, the things that you do. So it must be a good feeling to be aware that you're making such a difference to so many people.
Well, I had to make a difference to myself. And it was interesting because when I first put it on Facebook, okay, I'm ready to go back now and do my Heartlight gatherings. My first people that came forward and said, yes, we want to help you, were from Melbourne. Right. And Melbourne is that's my hometown, okay? I decided to go back to where Messages of Love, my first book, began. I decided to have my very first Heartlight gathering where Bruce, the boy, and I first met. Yeah. And it fell into place very, very quickly. it was a little bit nerve-wracking because I've not been back to that, since I left Melbourne and came to Queensland. It was part of my past I left behind. Yeah. But I realised that for me to move forward, I had to revisit the past in order to, I say, accept and bless and let it go. Now, here's something very funny, David. I said to Chris before I left, wouldn't it be funny at the airport if they give me a red Corolla? Because when I left Melbourne 20 years ago, I had a little red Corolla. Okay, so I get off the plane and go to the car place, the hire place, and waited. About an hour later, this chap came along and he said, oh, your car's ready, and oh, that's good. So I wander around and he said, oh, here it is, here's the keys, and it was a red Corolla. So I just burst out laughing. I just said, well, this is going to be a very interesting 10 days down here in Melbourne. So anyway, on the way to visit my mother, I stopped off at the supermarket to get some, I drink alkaline water because I try and keep my body as alkaline filled as I can because I've got a very acidic body. And I thought, oh, where's my car? Look. Anyway, I saw the red Corolla and I looked down at the number plate and it was BP, Bruce Pollard, the name of the boy. So I thought to myself, I'm in for it. I am in for it. This is going to be a very interesting 10 days. And it was a very interesting 10 days. And I met up with people from the past that I haven't seen for many, many years that I felt when I left, it just wasn't quite what it should be. When the book first came out, a lot of my so-called friends were a little bit upset with it, I guess. And so I reconnected. But the Heartlight gatherings themselves, they were really, successful and, everyone loves them. But I realised that I still was taking on their emotions and their feelings. And as much as I tried to step back from it, you can imagine you've got 20 people in a circle, 20 that you're doing one-on counselling with, one after the other in a whole day workshop. So it's pretty full on. And these people are crying. These people are, they're just so wounded, and you're trying to bring them out of that deep, dark chasm and bring them back into the light. And so your head is all the time, thinking, getting solutions. I thought I was well enough to do that. But I realised when I got home, Chris and I went away to the beach for 4 days. And when I saw a photograph of myself, I looked shocking. Absolutely, I looked shocking. I was exhausted. I could see by my face that I was exhausted. Interestingly enough, I had 13 more Heartlight gatherings that people had come forward and said, we'll do one. So I had all my trips planned to go right down to New South Wales in the car from one to the other. Every single one of those did not happen.
Wow. It's just, you were meant to
Every single one. I'm a celebrant as well, so normally by this time of the year, I have been full up with doing weddings, funerals, you name it. I have had not one bit of work given to me since I came back from Melbourne. Nothing.
Good reason for that.
Because I needed to spend this time to get to know who I was, to do my final healing, to do the clearing, to understand what my purpose was. Really understand it. Because I was not looking at the big picture. I knew that was my work, this is my work. Heart healing, opening the heart, bringing back self-love. I didn't realise in what capacity or how I was to do it. I didn't realise that my work is to, the reason why I'm doing this is to assist those who come along to become enlightened beings, come back to who they really are.
Yeah.
That being that came onto earth, not the one that you've become through coming from here and not from here.
Yeah.
And living in the past and not living in the now.
Yeah, sometimes we don't realise we're living in the past, but we need teachers, we need yourself and others who can show us the way to do that. And if you're open to that, there's, you can move towards realising, a lot more of the potential that we all have. Enormous potential, almost unrealised potential. So it's great to when you finally find a way to tap into that awareness that we are a lot more than what we think we are.
Oh, David, we are, we think we're spiritual beings coming to have an earthly. Since I have been connecting with my star beings in the last 2 months, they're also starting to teach me so much and teach me about myself and make me and help me understand that I am much more than I think I am.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say it. Like, I think we try and stay small because we think it's egotistical if we don't.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. There was someone who said, one of our greatest fears is that we will realise who we are. And something like that, I might not be saying it correctly, but it's that sort of concept where there's just so much more to us than our conscious mind and our head realises. So the more we can stay here in the heart, the much better we'll be.
There's only one place.
Yeah.
Because love doesn't come from anywhere else. And our world, oh, David, we only have to look around. It's full of so much darkness. And I just thought today, quietly sitting in the winter sun, that if I can somehow continue to bring these small groups together and continue to be able to speak about what we've been speaking about now, if we can start off with one small group and one small group can learn to come from that place where I am trying so hard to come from, and if we can just spread the ripple effect bit by bit by bit, and it might not be in my lifetime or your lifetime, but I'm really hoping that we can go back to the way of, I guess, Christ.
Yeah.
And live in the way of the Christ and the goddess. And I think too, for men, and I was speaking to a group of men recently, and I was explaining to them how, I really love that you're doing yoga. I really love that you're bringing in that beautiful celestial music. You're allowing yourself to open up to the feminine aspect of who you are.
Yeah.
So you will find yourself that in your day-to-day life, you will notice that you're becoming much more balanced.
Oh, very much so, yeah. It's something that there's an awareness that we all slip back or we all get away from that. But I think what's important is we keep coming back to centre. I know Pema Chodron talks about this a lot, where you progress, you're honest with yourself. You say, okay, maybe I slipped up a bit today, but I'm aware of it. The worst thing of all is to be unaware. Who was it said that the worst thing in the world is a closed mind? And if we're out there, if we're talking to people, we're doing things, we can get back to that feeling, that true centre. And as long as we don't get not too hard on ourselves, I think that's important. And say, okay, I'm not going to beat myself up about that. It happened. What's next? How get back to centre? Start again. Come back. Keep coming back.
Absolutely. And an interesting thing is also, we come in, we've got lessons to learn, and it's all karmic stuff that we're going through at the moment because this is the lifetime of releasing all our karma. And that's why I've been having it all given to me in my dream state, because it's like release, 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 because all this has to go before you can actually move forward.
Yeah.
And do the work that God wants me to do, or the infinite light, or whatever you wish to call the source. And interesting that my guidance through the week was, if you continue to reject your lesson, it's like the apple, the tree is full of apples, and each apple is a lesson, and then you go to pick this apple off and you go, oh no, I don't want that, there's a wormhole in that, I'm going to leave that there. If you reject it and leave it on the tree, further down the track, you've got to come back and deal with that apple.
Yeah, Spirit has a way of making you do that. To me, another way is saying, turning the volume up. If you're not listening, Spirit will turn the volume dial up, and eventually you will listen. And it's amazing the way our minds try to trick us, but as we become more aware, we become better at dealing with that. So.
But once again, it's the mind, isn't it, and not the heart?
Yeah,
it's the mind. We're going into the grey matter, the grey matter, and saying, in the old days, we were told don't let the heart lead you. The heart doesn't know how to give you the right, guidance. And we're flipping the coin now, and we're saying, hey, hold on a minute. Actually, the heart does. And I remember Spirit saying to me once upon a time, we've got the thinking brain and the feeling brain.
Yeah.
The body actually has two brains. And when it was explained to me about the feeling brain, that really touched my heart. I came to a different understanding about the whole process, and has switched my thoughts, because I'm Virgo, I'm ruled by Mercury, which is thoughts. So for me to get out of the head and actually come in, it's taken a lot of practice to do that. But getting back to rejecting and saying, well, this is presented to you. Well, I don't want that. I reject that because it's all too hard. And so later it's got to be presented to you again. I really love this, because I don't say I ever reject something. I always say I accept it. I accept it, I bless it, and then I let it go in love. And I think if we learn to go through life with what the cards deal us, and instead of saying, I reject that, I don't want to look at that or whatever, and we actually learn to start to look at it, we don't have to go right into the whole process and relive the whole thing. But if we accept what's happened to us, and then we bless that, and then we release that, I think that is enough, just in that mantra, to actually to be able to go, right, there's that apple, boom, eaten, gone. That apple comes off the tree, one less apple on the tree. And through life and through the rest of my life and your life and those who come to me for counselling, I actually have them say this out loud. I accept, I bless, and I let go in love. And don't you feel really light? Much lighter.
Yeah, very much so, because you've let something go. You've been carrying something around which is weighing you down. All of a sudden, you come out of that, and it's great because I spend my working life up here in the head, and it's just so important for me to come into contact with as many different ways of moving from that back into the centre. So I have to remind myself sometimes.
And I've got something here I'd like to read to you.
Sure.
Because I had a funny feeling we would take this little, pathway.
Okay.
And it's St. Francis of Assisi wrote this.
Yeah.
The mind does nothing but talk and ask questions and search for meanings. The heart does not talk, does not ask questions, does not search for meanings. It silently moves towards God and surrenders itself to Him.
That's beautiful.
And I thought that was really lovely because the heart doesn't. It, the head does do all the monkey chatter, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has its uses, but we need to put it in perspective. And,
Absolutely. And getting back to where I was talking about the children, the little children between 1 and 7.
Yeah.
I would actually really like to start to work with parents on this, because my thoughts are on this. If it's right, what Spirit have told me, and I trust that it is, that it does take 7 years for the soul to fully integrate within the body and to get used to the earthly life. My thoughts are that here we are at our age, learning now about balance, learning about taking that time to come from the head space into the heart space to do whatever we need to do in order to come back to that balance. Sometimes it's as simple as a walk in nature.
Yes.
Sometimes. For me, it's a walk along the ocean shores.
Yeah.
That's my balance, because I'm very connected.
Into the higher self. And that's where we
Absolutely.
need to be.
And I'm really, really connected with the whales and the dolphins. So telepathically, when I go down to the ocean, most times I'm down there, a dolphin will appear. And now it's whale season. And so telepathically, I'm really looking forward to be able to have that really beautiful interaction with the whales and the dolphins. But my thoughts are, if parents begin with their children and become very, very aware from birth, to be consciously aware, best possible way that they can, to keep that child in a loving, harmonious home, I am sure we will find that our next generation of children, I know it's not easy. We have parents working, 2 parents now, and there are stresses and strains and financial stuff. But if we can try and protect our children as much as possible from what we're going through, yes. I just wonder if our next generation of children are going to be much more at peace with themselves.
Yeah, I feel they will, because sometimes, I suppose I've never been a parent, but I would think that sometimes we can't help projecting some of our stuff. If you're not aware, that's what you do. But people are maybe more aware, know what's going on, and then work their way through it. But it's a really difficult situation when someone isn't aware of what they're projecting. I'm sure we've all seen examples of that, where a parent has projected their stuff onto a child, and that child has grown up with some difficulties, partly because of that that projection. So it's awareness is all, isn't it? It's the more aware we can be, the better.
It is, and as I said, it's not easy with our day-to-day. Fortunately, I am much better with my grand angels than I was with my own children.
Yeah.
Because I was a single mum for a lot of their life, and working 3 jobs to try and support them, and it was I did the best I could, but I know I wasn't as present as what I should be. But if I go back to the ages between birth and 7, I was fully present for those my 2 kids. They were the easier days, and I've noticed as adults, and I'm really proud to say this, what together adults that they have grown up to be. And I am sure that it's because that I had that time with them. Now, my grand little ones are in daycare because both their parents are working. And so I am making a conscious effort when I have those little ones, and they're 3 down, and we've got twins coming now, I make a conscious effort to, when I'm with those children, to be totally present with them and to give them all the love that I can give, because I know that when their mum and dad comes home from work, it's full on, dinner, this and this. And, my little 3-year-old said to his mum and dad recently, will you stop arguing all the time? And he put his hands over his head and he said, I just cannot take it, not one more day. And he said, I'm packing my bag and I'm moving in with Jen Ma. But, you know, I said to my daughter, I said, I know, you know, your fighting is not fighting. I know it's because you come home from work, you're tired, you're busy, you're trying to do everything. And I said, but you've got to understand that what's going on with you is actually affecting your little ones, your children, and try to, you know, just protect them a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had a girl contact me on Facebook, and I wrote this on Facebook because I try and share each day as I receive a message. I share it on Facebook because that's my blackboard, I suppose. Yeah. They're my YouTubes. That's my voice. And there was a girl came on and she said, now my son is ADHD. He's 20, but he comes from a very loving home.
Yeah.
And I said, something must have happened to him. I'm convinced something happened to fragmentate his soul at that time when it was coming in. He had a soul fragmentation. And she said, well, actually, he had a very traumatic birth. Yeah. And I said to her, do you think that soul fragmentation actually happened through the birthing process? And it has nothing to do with how he's been brought up. It's to do with the shock of that birthing process. So that opened up another little can of worms for me, and I started to think about, you know, maybe this soul fragmentation happens even before the child comes out of the womb.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, it's a subject that I'd like to actually delve a bit deeper into.
Yeah, maybe we can do that some other time, because it fascinates me as well. There's lots of traumatic things can happen that maybe at the time or people around you didn't realise the effects, and it's just later on in life we realise the pain that caused, and to work our way through it. I mean, it's a lifetime thing, isn't it, working through and growing, and you know, you just spoken about the effect of you going to Melbourne and all that's happened since then, like a catalyst for more growth.
Well, it was when I thought this was the beginning of something big. Yeah. It was actually the beginning of an ending. And so instead of coming home and saying, oh no, now look what's happened, blocked again, like I used to say, here, always blocked, you know, I can't get out there and do my stuff. I said to myself, okay, this has happened for a reason, and the reason will unfold and present itself. And so as the weeks go by and I spend more and more time in reflection and everything else, finally today, it was only today, and here we are speaking, that the penny dropped, and I went, wow. It's not just, my work isn't just about assisting the heart to heal, it's about working with a being, that person, to become an enlightened spiritual person.
Yeah.
Right? To go back to the divinity of who you are.
Yeah, you always were. You lose touch with it, don't you? For various reasons, we lose touch with it, and the sort of things you're talking about bring us back to that level of awareness.
Absolutely. Because I don't think we can come to love, a place of love, until we empty the vessel of as I said, the baggage. We cannot possibly, if your cup is full of mud, and you're trying to pour, a vintage champagne into that cup, it's not going to work, is it?
No.
So to appreciate the taste of a vintage champagne, you need to empty out the sludge, wash that beautiful crystal goblet, and then fill it up with this, vintage champagne, and then you've got that, that the essence of that champagne. And that's how I look at, I'm starting to look at things. So, in the 6 months, although we haven't connected, we've always been connected at the heart, of course, David. Yeah. But, things still progress, and 6 months, I guess, in time is just a grain of sand.
That's
a grain
right.
of sand.
Yeah, that's right. And so, what are your plans for? Are you continuing to do what
For
you're
now, I'm still experiencing.
Yeah.
I had a very graphic dream recently where I was, before that, when Chris and I went on the 5 days after I came back from Melbourne, I had a little granny nap in the afternoon, and in that granny nap time, I had an amazing dream where a being walked through a wall, and the being was, say, 8 feet tall and about that wide, like a beam pole, right? And I was looking at this being thinking, oh my God, can you get any thinner? You were just like a stick. And from the top of the being was a cylinder that came up the top of the head. And then sitting on top of the cylinder was like an oval-shaped object. And that rotated, that oval-shaped object. And in the middle of it was an eye. A bright blue eye. And I watched this, it didn't speak, the being didn't speak, but this thing on top of the head just rotated around, and it was, blinking. It was blinking, but it was looking at me, and I was looking at it, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is like the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I woke up out of that dream and we went for a walk. And as we were walking along, I noticed a lady walking towards me. She was very, very tall, 6'6", I suppose, white skin. I mean, like the whitest skin you've ever seen. Her jawline was very, very broad. She was a very unusual looking lady, and her eyes were out here, like they were out to the side and very big. And she had blonde, white hair. And she was walking towards me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, fancy being that tall. Must be hard to find shoes and clothes, a typical girl thing. And then I thought, oh gosh, she wouldn't be able to even go out in the sun. Look how white her skin is. Oh gosh, that's incredible. So as she started to walk closer to me, and I'm thinking all these thoughts, she looked at me, stood in front of me, and smiled. Just stood there smiling. I thought, this is a bit strange. So I smiled back at her, and then she winked at me. And telepathically she said, so we have met. Oh, I thought, okay. And I just looked at her and I nodded and I smiled. And then I turned around to Chris to say, and I looked back and she was gone. Nothing was there. I thought, are you kidding me? So then I had this dream, and in the dream, normally I have a brooch, and it's a heart brooch, but the heart brooch was replaced by one with stars on it. And I said, but I don't want that one with stars on it. Give me back my one with the hearts on it. No, you don't need that anymore. Oddly enough, when I woke up that morning, I had a heart locket that I wear on this chain, and it was gone. Disappeared. I haven't been able to find it. It's gone. I've been upset about it because Chris gave it to me. But I have to accept, okay, well, I've been told something here. Yeah. So a man came to me and he said, oh, so I noticed you're from the stars. And I said, why do you say that? He said, well, you've got your star badge on. He said, follow me. And he took me into a room, and it was a stainless steel room, and there was a man there, and he said, sit down. He said, it's time to start work. And I said, oh, I don't want a job. I've got one. I'm working with the heart. He said, no, not anymore, you're not. And he said, I'm going to teach you telecommunications. And I said, telecommunications. And he said, you are going to be taught how to communicate with star beings, and you are to bring their messages through to Earth.
Wow.
Because what they will share with you are going to blow their mind. They will blow humans' minds. Humans have no concept about star and planetary beings. And you will connect directly with them, speak their language, and share what they've got to share with those you speak to.
Wow.
Oh, wow. This is, wow. Like, wow, this is out there. Out there. They said, you need to know who you are and remember who you are. So I came out of that dream the next night. I was going off to sleep. And the next minute, someone appeared beside my bed. And my heart was thumping once again. I thought, oh no, here we go again. And they said, do not be afraid. You will be meeting more and more of us as time goes on. Do not be afraid. I said, oh, you're going to keep coming in the night like this? And they said, no, you will start to see us through the daytime. Do not be afraid. So the very next day, Chris and I were going for a drive, and we stopped off, and Chris wanted a coffee, and I was going to get a coffee for him where he normally goes, and I thought, oh, no, I'll go along further down the little cafes, and I'll go down there and get him one. So I was standing there, and a man came to stand next to me. Now, Chris had a dream that morning about Steve Martin, the actor Steve Martin.
Oh, yeah.
And he said he came out of his marshy pool and then he went back in the marshy pool, and then I went to follow him in the marshy pool. And anyway, this man started talking to him. Now, that morning I was receiving messages about hybrid children and about the new children that are coming through from the Sirius and the Palladians, and they're half Palladian, half of that planetary system, and half human. So they're called hybrid children. This little boy came and stood right in front of me. His eyes once again were very much to the side of his face, and they were the bluest blue. And he just stood there in front of me and smiled like the lady did, And I looked at him, and he didn't say a word. He just nodded. And then came a man stood beside him, and the man started smiling at me, and he said, I said, oh, hello. And he said, oh, hello. And he said, oh, my name's Steve. Oh, hello, Steve. Nice to meet you. I'm just waiting for my coffee for my husband. And he said, oh, Steve Martian. Steve Martian! Steve Martian! I said, oh, do you mean Martin? And Chris's dream came straight. He said, no, Steve Martian. And he started laughing. And then they went and disappeared straight before my eyes. So it's really quite interesting, what's been going on in that direction also.
Sure, definitely. It's. I think maybe we're coming towards the end of our time today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we leave with it?
I think I just have to go back to what we've been talking about, on and off through the whole talk that we've been having, and that is for everybody, for you, for anyone who's listening to this, and for myself also. The only way that we can move forward to become the enlightened being, that the butterfly, that beautiful butterfly that we wish, and that magnificence that I know that we are, is to take the steps, have the courage to let go of your past.
Yeah,
once and for all. Do not go back and visit it. Don't keep going back over it. Just once and for all say, right, enough is enough. I don't want this anymore. And learn to live in this very present moment. And I think that is when you will find the pathway to happiness and love.
Thank you. Well,
so that's what I'd like to finish it with.
Yeah, it's been great to talk to you again. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about, and we'll do something at some stage when the time's right. But it's been great to be with you today. Thank you for being with us, and I look forward to being with you again soon.
Thank you, David. Lots of love from Australia.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you, darling. Bye.